Steve, episode 41 of the Broadway block, coming in with 104 points. Canes won last night against the Yotes. They're at 106. My questions for you today are, do you want us to win and catch the Canes and get that number one seed and win the Met? And my last question is, Steve and I were at the great Red Wings Rangers game on Sunday. What was your favorite part of being at that game?
Reverse order because that game was insane. Garden was awesome. The energy was great. For a matinee on Kids Day, I mean, it was so loud. The wave, that was, I don't know. People had mixed feelings about it, but I was like, that's the energy that was there. And a lot of the posts that I wrote, people were asking like what I was looking at. I admit it, man. I came out of that building with like the rosiest tinted shades and like life was good. And I mean, what a game. Like, that laugh goal was one of the sickest things. I literally said, and you were right there, I said out loud, no, he didn't. That was insane. And I think that was definitely one of the highlights of being at the game. Of course, obviously, our section was full of kids, and a lot of them, it was their first game. They're all having a lot of fun. And like, I think that just being there for all of that was, obviously I walked away with a great takeaway. I think catching the Canes is a fun idea, I guess, but it doesn't really matter. I feel like we don't, in my opinion, match up that great against them. So as long as they're first and we're second, or we're first and they're second,
We don't see them till we get some momentum. I agree.
Right. So that's really where I'm at. But what a game to be at, man. I hope you had fun. It's a good time.
I'm still jonesing off of it. I'm like, when's my next Rangers game I'm going to?
Big pain.
I know. To get into the city's fun. So we got the kids line buzzing again. Obviously sucks Kako went down with an injury, because prior to that he had that 2-goal game against the Flyers, which was great to see him really getting back. And in the post game, they talked to him about it. He said that it really took a couple games to really get back to feeling it. So now hopefully we get him back for the playoffs. Laffy with his 2-goal game. That was his close to getting a hat trick. Wanted to see that. How bad did you want to see a hat trick from Laffy, Steve?
I was screaming it so loud, the lady next to me told me to stop. I really, really wanted it. But here's the other thing. Like, I mean, I called it, like, big game laugh. Like, the guy sat for the first time in his career. I think it's a no-brainer that the guy was going to have an unbelievable game. But it's like, screw the goals. I mean, he looked electric all night. He was on top of the puck, making plays. One thing I like about Laugh is he's adjusting to something that is like pretty foreign. And, if you look at the move for that beautiful backhander, he slides over to the right side. Maybe this is making too much of it, but it's like, to me, that just demonstrates he's like, I can score from over here, man. Put me on that top line. I don't care. And to me, that performance spelled out, don't sit me again, man. Please. That was not cool. And a lot of people sort of seem to take some exception to Gerard Gallant in that decision. I feel like, to me, that was the right move to make. I mean, we can make a lot more about his time on the ice, that is Lafreniere, and maybe where he plays in the lineup, but
82 games is a lot. I think Gallant was the right call. Like, just give him a little refresh. Another fun point, Frankie Vetrano, 100th career goal in his 16 games with us. He's had 11 points, 7 goals, 4 assists. If Laff didn't have that just filthy goal, would that goal by Frankie have been what would be talking about right now? Because that thing was a missile, laser right in there.
And Frankie's known for that. I mean, he's got a great shot, a shoot first mentality, and it's gonna be interesting to see what happens, because there's a good argument to be made that we have money spent next year, that the conversation's basically over as far as like who stays and who goes is mostly math and not based off of chemistry. And I would argue that Vetrano has proven himself as a worthy player and worth a keep, and especially on a very historically pass happy team over the last, I'd say, decade. I've been wishing that I had the right trigger in my hand to command the team to shoot, but a guy like that seems to fit in really, really well. I wouldn't be opposed, I feel like, either way. I feel like if we let him go, I would be of the understanding mindset of, we had that money spent on, whether it be a Kako extension. There's no real point of dissecting it that way, but if he stuck around, man, I'm a big fan of Vetrano. I think what he provides for us, there's a lot of plays last year. And if you look at that like beautiful tic-tac-toe goal from the Ottawa game where, Booch and Zibanejad back to, it's like, that was beautiful and all, but what if it didn't score? Because then you just have that typical Rangers move where we come in and no one's thinking shoot. And I think that Vetrano's brought that in his play. What do you think about Kopp to the same mark?
Copp's the same thing. He shoot first, pass later. He's been like adjusting with different, obviously with Panarin being a different player up there and him going back and forth between lines. Here's a take. Do you think Kopp should be on the first power play instead of Strome?
Strome's play is a curious one because at least numbers wise, it was evident that he wasn't around when he wasn't there for a couple games. So I'm the jury, I feel like, is still a little bit out on Strome. And then what happens with him this offseason is sort of I mean, it's already up in the air before the deadline.
Well, I think when we see what happens in the playoffs too, like, does he really deliver what we've been looking for and what he has been before he got hurt and everything? Is that the Strome that's going to show up, or are we just going to be disappointed? We're like, we got to re-sign Kopp.
Now, a lot of what happens to Strome has a lot to do with Panarin. And, Panarin's being, I think, now acknowledged for the season that he's having. He's having an incredible year, albeit scoring is high, but he's scoring at an unbelievable clip and being a 90-point player in a career high year for him in assists, I think is reflective of he's having a year where he shoots less and he passes more, at least on the finishing aspect of it. And if you look at, the narrative around Strome is he misses wide open empty net opportunities. And if you're a guy like Panarin, who is a lethal, like no discredit to his shot, lethal finisher, but he seems to like to pass. And it reminds me a little bit of like a better Zook type of player. Zuccarello, man, there's so many times where I wish he just shot the puck, but he always looked for that setup pass and call it.
He's shooting more with the Wild now.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. But I think a little bit of it too is who you play with. So if you got a guy like Kopp that you can trust to finish, maybe Panarin is going to continue that playmaking. It seems like he's on a playmaking stretch right now where he is looking to pass more. So, if Strome isn't finishing on these opportunities, and he's always been linked to Panarin as having that chemistry, what did Strome's mother say during the parents' trip? Keep passing it to my son, right? So at a point, if he stops passing it to Strome and he stops making those finishes, Strome's numbers are going to dive a little bit, which is also going to affect contract negotiations. And, I'm here for it either way. I feel like I can see the argument of letting both Strome and Vetrano walk in an effort to keep a guy like Kopp and maybe spending that money. I guess the only fortunate thing in Kako's injury situation is he's up for a new contract next year. That's going to be heavily dependent on performance, and we'll see. I mean, it really depends on what we can give him and how long we can lock him for. Do we give him that, that bridge contract that we're kind of famous for, the show me deal? So I don't know.
Here's another take. Do you think we roll with Igor tonight? And then we got the Jets tonight, and then we got the Islanders Thursday. We know how Igor matches up against the Isles. Would you throw Igor in tonight against the Jets, or then AG against the Isles? What are you thinking on that?
AG against the Isles. Yeah. I mean, I hate it a little, but Igor hasn't necessarily played all that well against them. Georgie's had some games in my memory that he's played really well against the Islanders. So
keep morale high for Igor going into the playoffs too. You don't want him to feel like there's a team that can get him.
Yeah, I guess also you don't want him to feel like, why don't you play me against the Islanders? You know what I mean? But also think about where we're at. If would a loss against Sorokin be a damage to his ego, or would a win against that team really, cement? I don't know. I feel like this is one of maybe the last times that he gets a chance to have a rest. So I could see the argument for Igor not playing every game down the stretch. I mean, you also want to feel like, God forbid, Georgiev has to get into a game. You don't want his last start to be back in March, right?
Plus May's coming quick for the playoffs, so only a couple games left. So
I'm excited, man. I can't wait till the playoffs start.
All right. I think that's all we have for you guys today. Steve, thank you for your time.
Thanks, brother.
Have a good one. Let's
You
go
too.
Rangers.
Let's go.